Do you remember like an early core memory of like the first time you realized like maybe your dad was struggling with mental illness?
When I was 8, my brother and my mother were in South Africa, and my dad and I had some sort of falling out over something. I don't even know what it was. And I told him I loved him. I was like crying and telling him I loved him. I wanted him to tell me he loved me back, and he told me he didn't love me. And he left.
And so you were alone in the house?
For a couple hours, not for very long. And I was just crying in bed the whole time. But I remember sitting there and being like, my father doesn't love me. Like, I did something very wrong. And I was calling my mom, and they're on a different time zone. And that was the first time she was like, this has nothing to do with you. This is fully your dad. And that's when I really first understood that. I think it took a long time and a lot of therapy, because we don't use diagnoses in the household either. So it took a lot of therapy for me to figure out what was actually going on.
How was that explained to you that like we don't use?
It wasn't. In fact, most of the time it was like, it's PTSD because my dad was in the apartheid war, or it's trauma, or it's just he's having a bad mood. And it's like, that's actually not what's happening. He has a chemical imbalance in his brain that makes him incredibly high and incredibly low. And it took a lot of therapy for me to feel the validation of a diagnosis, even if he has now gotten one, but even if he never got one, to understand what was actually going on. And it was frustrating because you're like, why do you not want to know? It will help understand and educate us on what's happening, so it's not his fault either. Do you know what I mean? He's not trying to be like that.
Right.
I also think like our parents' generation just doesn't really understand mental health. And I think it wasn't a priority, whereas now, as we become parents, like, of course it's a priority. But back then, it really just felt like that wasn't even an option.
So when you were dealing with difficult moments with your father, like how would your family talk about it?
There's a lot of triangulation, which is something I learned in therapy, with my mom and my brother and I kind of having little kikis in my brother's room while one of us is crying because he's done something to them. Always verbal, never anything physical, thankfully. And usually the issue was I became this like key to unlocking his good mood. So when there was bad things going on in the house, I would be called to come and fix the problem. So no matter what the issue was, if he was upset with my mother or my brother, I would be sent in to essentially disarm him emotionally.
Why do you think that was?
I think a lot of men, like their little girl is the apple of their eye. I think I was the apple of his eye. So I think it allowed him to like, I'd walk in and most of the time it would work. And I'd be like, Dad, can we just have a nice night? Can we just figure it out? And it would take him a couple of hours, but sometimes it would work. So I think they kept doing that.